Okay, Ken, how does one begin that process? Because just like Carol said, there are those perks that you enjoy, and they just may be social perks, which you don't want to face. For instance, it may be a societal thing that you're married and I cannot be divorced, you know, despite the fact that you've realized that this relationship is just not working. What's the procedure? What are those steps that Ken is talking about, that Chris is talking about, that you need to begin so that you don't have to come back when you've made that decision to leave?
You know, self-evaluation is where it all starts. You have to be a little selfish in terms of thinking about yourself. What are you getting out of this relationship versus what could you be missing if you left? And most times, like both of them say, the toxic relationship has some silver lining somewhere. You know, there's something that other people are not seeing that you see. Yeah, sometimes it's in the kitchen, sometimes it's in the bedroom, but everything about the personality and behavior out here is totally messed up. But you will stay in it, and when you finally want to make that decision, you know, part of the problem people have is walking away. You just walk away. Then you start thinking, nah, I miss that person, or whatever it is that you are missing from that person. But if you plan it, I don't know how Chris thinks about. It's like a business, you know, like, okay, now I want to close down this business. I need to sell off this stock and then do a day. But sometimes for a relationship, it might not work like that. Because this person, you're with them every day. You see them every other day of your life. And when you want to leave, you sometimes think, what happens after I leave? Yeah, so you start that process, but there are so many ifs and buts. But I think the only way to do it is to take stock of yourself as a person. Because if you're not getting what you want from a relationship, believe you me, whether it's business, whether it's academics, whatever it is you're doing, if you're not extracting maximum profit from it, walk on. That process has to start with yourself. And once you talk to either a specialist, a professional, or you talk to your pastor or your friend, yeah, then you give them that intent. And once you show the intention, believe you me, if it's your mother or your friend or somebody who cares, they'll encourage you and show you a way. Yeah, it's usually very, very difficult as a person just to wake up and say, I've had it, I'm walking away.
It is, it's impossible. You can more or less guarantee that if a relationship suddenly blows up in front of you, a couple they suddenly split up, you can absolutely guarantee that one of them was going through the process for months and they were just not talking about it. And it includes, as he says, you start by thinking about yourself, but you then, some of what you do is business. Some of it is about thinking, where am I going to live? Do I need to get a new job? Some of it is about reconfiguring your social life. Where am I going to hang out? I need to re-energize a lot of old friendships. I need to develop friendships that don't see me as part of a couple, so that I can actually go and be with them and not feel empty because my partner's not there. A lot of it is about, what am I going to tell people? What am I going to say to my family? The social pressure that will come to go back in. How am I going to counter that? How am I going to say to my family, look, I know you think he's lovely, but, you know, you've got to think through that. You're going to have to think about children. What do I say to the children? How do I manage the children after the separation? How am I going to go through the process of agreeing with my partner that we are good parents, even though we are separated? How do I avoid a toxic custody battle? How do I start the process of disentangling our finances without a monumental fight?
All of this, like almost as conversation you have with yourself, and you decide, you know what, it's okay, I think I can stay.
Well, some people do, but starting that process, it often has a sort of paradoxical effect. Sometimes it convinces you're making a mistake. Sometimes it paves the way and you eventually are separated. Sometimes the very fact that you're doing it makes you walk a little taller, makes you a little more independent, and your partner begins to perceive that even though you don't say a word. And they suddenly begin to have the thought in their head, maybe this person won't always be here. If I don't behave better, maybe I'll be on my own. And so suddenly they've got a motivation to start talking to you. So sometimes starting the process rescues the relationship.
Okay. Cara, are there other signs of a toxic relationship, and especially the subtle ones? I mean, there are those obvious ones. If a man or a woman is beating you up, I mean, really, there's nothing there to discuss. But there are those subtle things that happen in a relationship, and you're not quite sure. You think they're actually out of love.
If you feel you're losing yourself, you know, that's really subtle. Like day by day, you feel I'm not the person, not just change, because we are dynamic. Like Ken said, even relationships are dynamic, so change is good. But if you feel like you're no longer the person you were, you're empty. Even when you're with your partner, your husband, your boyfriend,
you're lonely.
The time you spend together, yeah, it's completely empty. You get nothing out of it.
Yes.
You actually feel better when you're not with them, you know? You actually feel at peace when the person is away,
Yes.
when he goes for business trips.
It's a very good
And of
sign.
course, that's not healthy, unless you're going through. Arguments are okay, but if this is 90% of your relationship, you know, there is no communication.
In fact,
you communicate about the children and school
that's
fees.
exactly right. This empty communication where basically you're just doing the diary, you take the kids today,
Yeah.
I'll do them tomorrow. If that's all you talk about, essentially you've got a real problem. There are some other signs you've got to watch for. If your conversation has started to become critical, in other words, most of what you say to one another has got a critical edge to it. Instead of saying, please will you take the trash out, you say to your wife, you never take the trash out. Or worse still, you stupid what's it, you never take the trash out. Very strong sign that things are going wrong. If you're beginning to, every argument degenerates into defensiveness. It's not an argument about how to solve the problem, it's why you're wrong and I'm right, you know? If it goes that way, signs are very bad. And of course the real final sign that things are going over the edge is that people stop talking altogether. People start
Silence,
walking round one another. They stop bringing subjects up. If something comes up, they just clam up.
Ignore it.
All right, Ken,
Hide it under the
all
carpet.
these are signs which probably, like we've said, are subtle and they come over a period of time. But some are redeemable. There are some which can be, you know, talked about and hopefully the relationship redeemed.